it occurred to me that one demographic that I kind of forgot about was the new rider. Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Get Out and Ride. Gary here, and I'm on I-55 South, slowly but surely getting out of Illinois. I had posted another video about some of the delays I had on my trip from Chicago down to Houston, but I'm chugging along. So while I'm just kind of running down the interstate, I had some thoughts I kind of wanted to get out and talk to everybody about, and it's about getting out and riding. But I realized after I did the first episode where I was sort of talking about my story and why I'm pushing to get out and ride more this year after not being able to do it for a couple of years, it occurred to me that one demographic that I kind of forgot about was the new rider, right? So I was talking largely from the perspective of an experienced rider kind of having a drought in riding and wanting to get back to it. But there's a whole other demographic that needs to get out and ride, and that's the newer rider, which you might think, well, it's a newer rider, they're excited, they're new to it, they're going to be all over it, and for the most part that's usually true, I think. But the thing I think that some of us forget is some of the anxiety that goes with being a new rider. As excited as you might be to get out there, you know, someone who may have just taken the BRC and has done all of their riding in a controlled environment in a parking lot, it's very different to actually get out on a public roadway with other traffic around, and now all of a sudden you've got an open roadway, you've got traffic lights you're paying attention for, you're trying to scan, you want to make sure the cars around you don't sideswipe you and knock you off the road. So there's a lot of kind of anxiety that goes with getting out there for the first few times, and maybe more than the first few times. And then there's the whole other challenge. As much as a daredevil as many people may be, and for some people, granted, doesn't bother them at all, but for some people, getting out on the highway and now doing all of that at high speed is an entirely separate issue that causes them anxiety. And I would hate to see that anxiety dissuade them from pursuing their motorcycle riding, particularly if it's something they have a lot of interest in. So my entire purpose for this was to talk a little bit about the newer rider getting out there, getting some experience, and more importantly, hopefully a more experienced rider being able to mentor that new rider a little bit and ride with them early on. I know that was a huge help for me years ago when I started to ride, is that being on my own, it was like, well, what if something happens? This is new to me, this was strange. The only two wheels I'd ever really ridden before was a bicycle until I got on a motorcycle, and obviously you didn't take a bicycle very far. So all those things sort of ran through my head. Like, here I am on this bike, I'm going fast, I'm in traffic, a car could hit me, and then it's all over. I just was thinking worst case scenarios in my head, which is what I think a lot of either new or non-motorcycle riders do when they think about riding. And then even worse was, well, what if I go somewhere far? And now what if something happens to the bike and now I'm stranded? And all these things would go through my head, and most of them were irrational fears. I never had any major problems like that, but it was something that was up in my head and I kind of had to deal with. And so I'm sure it goes through the heads of other new riders. And the whole reason I got onto this topic and started thinking about it during the week last week was because after I did that first episode, I recalled a YouTube video that popped up in my feed about 2 weeks after a week or two after I picked up my Goldwing. And of course, when you pick up a bike, you're excited like a little kid. Every rider is. You may not show it much on the outside, but you are just all giggles and excitement on the inside to get out and ride that new bike. And so I was definitely in that stage. And so obviously I watch different motorcycle related content. There's some really great channels out there that go over some motorcycle riding tips, and there's also some people that do some amazing riding, like Pedro Mota, who's been riding around the world. Tim Collins is currently riding around the entire country through all the national parks, which is incredible. If you haven't seen 40 Times Around in Tim's channel, go check him out. Very cool. But at any rate, since I watch those types of videos, YouTube in its infinite wisdom knows to keep an eye out for me for motorcycle related content. So this video popped up from a content creator named James Morelan. He actually lives up in southeastern Wisconsin, so he's just north of Chicago, not far from me. And so that was kind of ironic. But the reason that one of his videos popped up, he is not a moto vlogger. He has not been a motorcyclist or into the sport at all up until just recently. He just bought his first bike, and that was the reason that YouTube decided to recommend it to me in my feed, was because there was a motorcycle involved. And so I watched his video and I could totally relate. You could see how excited he was. That was incredible. I was going through the same thing because I had my new Goldwing in the garage. And so he got his first bike, and then I had later seen when he took it out for his first ride on public roads. So a little background real quick. So James is pretty much self-taught to this point, as best I know. He did a lot of studying online, taking practice tests, hopefully watching some credible videos from some instructors online, doing his best to learn it. And that's good. I've seen a lot of people that just figure they're going to go out and wing it, which isn't necessarily a good plan. It usually can definitely end to someone getting hurt if you haven't learned how to ride a bike properly, but he's got a lot of good background knowledge, and so now he's kind of getting on the bike. He's got a learner's permit in Wisconsin, and he's trying to get comfortable riding it. And that's what really made me feel I needed to do a video about this and talk to those newer riders, because as I watched him get out for his first ride, he talked through some of his anxiety, some of his excitement as well, but there's definitely anxiety there. Getting that bike up to speed on a public roadway with other vehicles around that you're not sure what they're going to do. You might be a little scared of them at first, so you have to kind of work through those issues. And he was doing a great job with it. And the one thing I hope, though, is that every new rider gets someone that can kind of help mentor them. And that's really what this is about. If you know someone and you're an experienced rider, but you know someone that's either interested in riding or just starting riding, I'm sure most people are, but get out there and be willing to help them, whether it means helping them find the right gear, making sure they're making wise choices, helping them get out and do a little bit of riding, because, you know, if you have anxiety as a new rider, sometimes it helps if you've got a more experienced rider with you. Even though they're not on the bike with you, they can't necessarily help you in a situation. It just helps ease that anxiety knowing that you've got someone that knows what's going on better than you do, right by your side. So that's what kind of made me think of that. And I've always been more than happy to do that, because I can remember what it was like when I started to ride. I had some of that anxiety. You know, the first time out in traffic and then the first time getting on the highway, that was pretty stressful. So I just want to kind of urge all the current riders out there, help the new riders out. Or even more importantly, if you know someone that hasn't started to ride but has some sort of interest in motorcycles, maybe help them with that so that they can get out there. Obviously, I wouldn't say, you know, if you ride a big, powerful bike, don't put the interested person on your bike to try it out, because that might not end well. But help guide them in the direction of a BRC, a basic rider course, or try to get out with them and maybe help them go look at motorcycles just so they can see what fits them, and maybe guide them in the right direction so that their first motorcycle isn't something like a Hayabusa. Unless, hey, for some new riders, maybe a Hayabusa is okay. It's all dependent on the rider. But be there for them. And I just want to say, like, if James Morelan is watching this, I'm just south of Chicago. I make it up into Wisconsin all the time. Hey, if I pass through, if you want to get out and ride over the course of the season, let me know. I'm more than happy to do that and kind of show you the ways. Obviously, I'm on my way to Houston now, but I'll be back in Chicago next week. So that's kind of where I'm at. I just want to get everybody out and riding, and not just the experienced riders, and, you know, out enjoying that thrill. Share that thrill with the new riders as well, and help them see how enjoyable that it can be. Because obviously, one of the main reasons I love to ride is that it is an incredible relief of stress. I can get out here and I am just focused on the road the entire time. It's just me and the bike. I can focus on the road. I can enjoy the scenery. I don't have time to worry about all the other stress. And I'm sure this is the same with almost every motorcyclist. They get themselves caught up in this moment and this experience, so much so that they are not concerned about what they were upset about when they flip their leg over the bike to start riding. That stuff is on hold for right now. You have a temporary pause in the rest of your stress to just get out and enjoy all of this. And so if I can do that and help other people do that, that's what I want to do. And so that's kind of all I've got for this one. I will keep you guys updated as I keep trucking along down to Houston. I'm almost getting into Missouri soon. And if you haven't yet, go ahead and click that subscribe button below to make sure you get alerted. And also you want to click that bell so you get notifications when the new videos post, so that you can keep up with all of my my shenanigans in this trip. So until then, take care, everybody.